They have that God comp available to them, and BSX, as we've seen, has that Feral Mage Paladin available to them, as well as that God comp, a Holy Paladin God comp available to them, and even that Feral Priest Paladin composition that we saw come out of them yesterday as well. Shout out goes to Venruki. Thank you so much for coming in and commentating, dude. I really appreciate it, buddy.
Everyone's screaming that it's way too loud, so I turned it down. Yeah, no problem, man. It was fun playing. I think this is like the first GCD tournament. Is it still too loud? I think
you have to wait for you have to wait for it to like calm down a little bit, like or not calm down. You have to wait for it to you have to wait for it to delay. That's the term I was looking for. Go.
We need another person in here to. Then your mic sucks. It's good.
It actually sounds perfect to me, so I don't know.
All right, whatever. It sounds good now. Apparently,
I think it sounds amazing. So,
dude, this is like the first GCD tournament I got to actually play in. I think.
Yeah,
so that was kind of cool.
Dude, your bracket was rough for your comp, but I have to say, watching you squirm around as a Windwalker Monk and survive for so long every time was so exciting to watch.
We didn't really get to practice that much against God Comp, so it was kind of cool. Like actually during the games, we were learning so much, and I actually think if we played God Comp again, we'd be able to give an even better showing.
Oh,
so,
baby!
Looking forward to next week. Or
the week after that, though. But that being said, everybody. That being said, everybody, taking a quick look at that bracket, we have Cloud9 versus I Like the Status up next, starting right now, actually. And then after this series, we have a giveaway, a hoodie giveaway from Jinx. So make sure to hit that follow button so you are eligible for said giveaway. And then, but next week, speaking of next week, we will be opening up those signups for tournament number 3 right after this tournament on Battlefy. So if you want to compete, those signups are going to be open and available to you. But here we go. Game number 1 of the semifinals of the lower bracket. It's Cloud9 versus I Like the Status. And right away, we see a Warlock and an Elemental Shaman representing on Cloud9.
Interesting. I guess they feel like their safe option instead of playing like RMD is just this LSD composition, something we don't see too much. We've seen them play Elemental Shaman, or well, they've been play Elemental Shaman a little bit in the past, but yeah, they're really the only team that has busted it out in the GCD tournament, I think, right?
Yeah, LSD. We've seen some LSD 2s, some even LSD 3s, but this is the first time, or not the first time ever, but this is the first
like
team.
OG LSD.
OGLST, and here we go. The gates have opened, and if you're unfamiliar, this Warlock is actually Go Reki. Go Reki representing on that Warlock. And here we go. Beanslayer trying to get an opener in stealth. He's looking for that stun. It looks like he's going to stun up Businessman and put him into a full Cyclone right away. I'm curious to who the kill target's actually going to be here. It might actually be the Warlock to start things off. Haunt actually getting interrupted onto Go Reki, but this bash on the Beanslayer, and he's a bit overextended. Haunt's are connecting onto him as well, but he looks like he's fine for now. This looks like it's going to be a very gradual game, I think. Deep Freeze goes out onto Cubsy, and that Ring of Frost is going to be Shadow Fury on Sam I Am. Go Reki and Businessman doing a great job stopping the CC going out onto Cubsy for now. And it looks like they're wanting to play out a long game, versus I Like the Status playing Feral Mage Paladin are looking to get a setup here very, very shortly.
It's going to be very hard later on in the game, especially when dampening hits for Rebcub to actually heal through the Warlock and Elemental Shaman damage. But Beam getting a nice clone onto Cubsy there, Businessman taking a little bit of damage, still has his Shaman Rage if he needs it, just spamming out those heals on himself, giving Cubsy enough time to get out that Iron Bark, and he's going to be completely fine and stable. And Cloud9 is just going to be trying to delay this game as long as possible. Triple Shadow Fury actually coming out from Panda Kazi. Is that his actual name? Panda
Yeah,
Kazi?
that's his actual name, but no, it's Go Reki, but yeah.
Oh, it's Go Reki.
Yeah,
Alright then. Beanslayer taking a lot of damage down, dipping down to around 40% HP right now, fully loaded up with those Warlock dots from Go Reki, as well as Businessman putting in some pressure onto him. Rebcub now using his wings, going to be able to top off his team. It's going to be up to Sam I Am and Beanslayer to make sure they're decursing a lot, help the spread pressure, help Rebcub heal through that spread pressure as much as possible by spamming out those decurses and removing the agonies coming out from Go Reki.
Yeah, Incarnation and Berserk coming out from Beanslayer, getting a bit of pressure over onto Businessman. He's going to try to get a Cyclone up on the Cubsy through that stun, but he's just going to get feared up on it over and over by Go Reki. And a good job from them just negating all of that CC onto Cubsy, and Businessman is just completely fine through those huge offensive cooldowns of Beanslayer, and Sam I Am is just taking a whole bunch of pressure. I love hearing those gigantic bursts of damage coming out from Businessman, just chunking this team apart whenever I hear those procs go off. But Businessman taking a whole bunch of pressure. Iron Bark's going to be used from Cubsy before the deep freeze goes out, and then the ring is not going to land for now. A DR Cyclone goes out into Cubsy. Now swapping it over onto Businessman X. I like the status. They're just looking for an opportunity to get through the defenses that is Cloud9's LSD, and it looks like it's going to be an uphill battle for sure for I like this status. Rubcub doing a good job healing through the spread pressure so far, but we are far from dampening at this point. Full Cyclone goes out into Rubcub, and Sam I Am is the one who's actually in trouble. Saved by the Light's going to go ahead and proc on him. He's going to blink away and pull back and play defensive for now. But yep, he's going to catch some heals from Rubcub. Going to be okay. It's going to push right back in. Businessman constantly being the kill target. Ascendance is going to fade off of Businessman, so a lot less damage is going to be coming out. Sam Am should be okay to push forward here at this point, but Cloud9 looks like they're doing quite well being defensive, trying to get a Hex out from Businessman. He's going to get locked out on that. Cubsy not getting any follow-up CC, and every single time I like the status pushes in, they feel that rot pressure, and they feel that burst damage from that Elemental Shaman each and every time.
It's going to get worse and worse, especially as the game goes on. Rubcub taking a lot of damage, though, finally gets out of line of sight, gets that Word of Glory on himself. They shredded through that Save by the Light proc almost instantly. Rubcub, though, still has every single one of his defensive cooldowns, so still has that Avenging Wrath, Divine Shield, and Bubble, or Trinket. If they need to push in, if I like my status, like his status, they need to push in and be aggressive, they can feel pretty confident doing so because they have all of their defensive cooldowns. Beanstar are going to have that Incarnation coming up in around a minute. That's going to be key for them actually landing a kill this game. But as the game goes on and on and on, it's going to become so hard for Rubcub to heal through the spread pressure, and mana will become a big issue.
There we go. There's the cross CC that they're looking for. The Bash goes out in the Businessman. The full Cyclone's going to land on a Cubsy. Even Denounce is rolling in onto Businessman. He's going to get locked out in his heal as well, but Cubsy's going to leave the CC and catch an Ironbark. Goreki and Businessman doing a great job trying to prevent the momentum of the CC of I like the status, and so far they're doing great. There's the cross CC on to Goreki. It's just going to get dispelled by Cubsy very quickly, and it just seems like there's very few holes in Cloud9's LSD's defense at this point as they bring the game later and later into dampening. Only 35 more seconds until the first percentage of dampening is going to go into effect, and Rubcub is already at 56% mana. That being said, Cubsy's not far behind with a 65% mana, so it really can go either way. Dampening might affect one team more than the other, but it still makes both teams kind of vulnerable. Hodge goes out onto Pandensky. He's going to trinket out of that because this is his demon, so a whole bunch of pressure going out onto Businessman. Full ring lands onto Cubsy, I should say. Ice Novas as well land onto Businessman. Deep freeze onto Cubsy as well. He doesn't have a trinket available to him, but Businessman still looks like he's going to be okay even through all that, and Rubcub is the one who's having trouble healing through all this pressure even with wings up. Bash coming out on the Cubsy onto Rubcub with a whole bunch of haunts connecting to him as well. He's having a hell of a time keeping up with all of these dots, man.
Yeah, and this is with his Avenging Wrath up too. It's only going to get worse once those fades in around 5 seconds. It's going to be very hard for him to keep his team up. I really like to see Beanslayer and Sam I Am decurse more, really help Rubcub out. Dear Nadia, or Sam I Am, getting Save by the Light procced on him too with that excellent Elemental Shaman burst coming out from Wealthy Man. They're still trying to go aggressive though. I like his status. It's pushing in. They're trying to make something happen. Cubsy doesn't have his trinket. Businessman still has a Shamanistic Rage, but he doesn't have trinket as well. So if they can get through that, they'll have a good 30 seconds to try to land a kill on him with no trinket, no Shaman Rage.
Yeah, Bleeding Sage, Sandman, and Rubcub actually getting interrupted. Save by the Light's going to proc on him as well. Scary moment there for him as they're pushed in, and they have to stay pushed in to land something on Cloud9. It would seem 6% dampening at this point. Rubcub's, he's feeling it. Haunts connecting onto him. Sam I Am taking a whole bunch of pressure as well. He has 2 blocks available to him at this point, but he's holding on to him for now. Look at the spread pressure that Cloud9's pumping out. Rubcubs can't do this forever. Beanslayer and Sam I Am, they got to do something. They got to do something fast. Businessman still consistently staying the kill target for Cloud9. Shamanistic Rage still available to him, and that's going to force a block on the Sam I Am.
Yeah. Actually has to go into that block right away. Rubcub does have his Avenging Wrath up, but they're just pulled back behind the pillar, so he's going to be able to get off some cast. The Earthquake stun coming out, though, from Wealthy Man onto Rubcub's, finally deciding to use his Trinket as well as his Avenging Wrath. Going to have huge heals here on a Beanslayer, topping him off. Going to be able to top off the entire team, but after that, I mean, it's already 10% dampening with no wings. It's going to be a nightmare for him to heal through this damage. Cubsy having his Trinket up, coming around 5 seconds. Does get Deep Freeze by Sam I Am. The Polymorph stopped, though, by Goreki, so that setup kind of failed. Rubcub's taking a lot of damage though. Wings about to fade, still 50% HP. Needs to be able to top himself off with those wings. It's going to be so hard for him to actually get out heals after that point.
Yep, 37% mana. He's going to trinket out of that bash from Cubsy right away. And it looks like they're actually swapping the damage over onto Goreki potentially. Beanslayer chasing down Goreki, looking to kill him now. Sam I Am taking a little bit of pressure. Haunts connecting onto him. Grub Cub's getting interrupted now. Polymorph goes out in the businessman into a clone as well. Cubsy put into that Deep Freeze, Ring of Frost, and Goreki is all alone. Ice Nova's going out onto him as well. He's going to use that regen port away, but it didn't go all that far, so he's going to gate away as well. And Cubsy's going to pull back with his elemental, or I'm sorry, with his warlock, and Rubcub can't push out. He can't afford to just yet. Save the light proccing on him from all of the pressure of Cloud9, and that momentum is going to be stopped by just all of that spread pressure at this point. And at 16% dampening, time is running out.
Yeah, but Rubcub's actually going down and sitting down for a drink right now. Samayam sort of defending him, Beanslayer, Samayam all pushing back. They realize Rubcub has to drink. Gets a little bit of his sip, up to 35% mana. Now Cubsy is kind of crushing him on mana. Samayam, though, forced into his second block, does not have another one for another minute. Beanslayer also taking a lot of damage. It's going to be very hard from this moment forward for them to actually push in. And Rubcubs, though, gets down to 5% HP, has that Avenging Wrath up, able to catch a huge heal on himself. But that was unbelievable. Didn't have that Save Light proc, and they were actually able to almost give him instantaneously. Finally, some clones going out from Beanslayer onto Goreki to shut down some of the spread pressure. Beanslayer actually getting bopped out of that bash, Cubsy's bash by Rubcub, so that was well done by him. Businessman getting cloned up, reasonably low HP. Still has his Shaman Wall. Cubsy still has his Iron Bark if he needs it. Still has NS, still has Trinket. So I think Cloud9 is pretty safe at this point. Rubcub, though, doesn't have his Avenging Wrath for another minute, so if Cloud9 can push in, they can capitalize on that and get a lot of spread pressure going.
I think I like the status though. They're running out of time at 23% dampening, but look, as soon as they push in, everyone just gets so low. Cyclone going out onto Businessman. This is the Dark Soul coming out from Goreki, and you look at the health bars, and I like the status. They are feeling it. Aura Mastery coming out, negating a lot of that spread pressure as well as letting him free cast, but it doesn't even matter. Rubcub's still forced to use that bubble now at 25% dampening. Surely this is going to be the end of the game very shortly. Save of the Light proccing on Beanslayer X. Sam I Am has on one more block available in just one more second, and he's probably going to go ahead and use that very shortly. Whoa, Beanslayer getting low with that bash, and down he goes. Cloud9 taking a convincing game number 1 against I Like the Status with the composition choice of running LSD.
That's like a nightmare for a Holy Pally, that exact situation. At the end, you saw Rubcub use his Aura Mastery. It was around 27% dampening, I think. He uses Aura Mastery and Flash of Light, Word of Glory, Flash of Light. Then he bubbled, Flash of Light, and he just couldn't bring anyone's HP up. His heals just didn't do anything without the Avenging Wrath. And although he got off those casts with those cooldowns, it just didn't matter enough.
Yep, exactly. So I'm curious to see what it is that we're going to be, what compositions we're going to see out of I Like the Status moving into game number 2 now that they have that, now that they get to know what Cloud9 is going to be playing preemptively.
I think that, well, the thing is, I think that LSD is really strong against Holy Pally Mage. I think it's just really strong against Holy Pally Mage. You have a lot, like, especially, I mean, you have a lot of ways to stop their setups. You have the knock, you have Shadow Fury, Shaman has Trinket, he has Grounding, you have Spell Lock. Like, if you turtle, it's just really hard for them to get their consistent setups up, which is what Mage Paladin is really known for, always going, getting the Hodges and the Deep Freeze Chiefs, and if you can shut that down, it's really hard for them to get anything going. And I think eventually in dampening, you just win the game.
I'm adding Goreki's character names to that Pandaski to his character name, so everyone sees Goreki instead of Pandaski. I'm gonna do the same thing for Businessman X for Wealthy Man.
Yeah.
So there's no confusion.
No, when I was first casting these tournaments and someone had like a weird name and I didn't know what it was, I was like, I just kind of went with it. And,
yeah.
This one was like, what's his real name? Like, come on, what is this? Panda guy.
This Panda guy, like, who do you think you are, man? But Businessman X and Wealthy Man are two of the same person. It's Pandazgi. Oh, that's totally Pandakazi. How am I supposed to know where the space is, man? You know?
Yeah, whatever. His name's Goreki. Okay?
Yeah, that's what his name is. It's Goreki. Kazi like the kamikaze. Yeah, I get it. Who even is Pandakazi? Yeah. All right, guys. That being said, everybody, as we get ready to get into the next game, it is a best of 5 series. we are taking invites to the guild. So if you are a fan of GCD TV and you want to be a part of the community that is our in-game community, you're a fan of like competitive arenas and PvP and all that good stuff, check us out. We're the Alliance Guild on Tichondrius. And make sure to whisper, wait, I got this, Baby Bubbles. Baby Bubbles is the one to whisper, and that's with a Z instead of an S at the end. She will be the one to invite you.
Actually, I guess Rub Cup can only play Paladin. I guess that's why it's so safe for them to play LSD. Like, they can just, I'm pretty sure that Cloud9 can just play this LSD setup every game and be pretty confident with every one of these matchups.
Yeah, I mean, if you only have that Holy Paladin, it's really hard for that Holy Paladin to heal through this specific composition. And if that's all you have available to you, that could be a huge advantage moving forward. But here we go, it's game number 2. And once again, we see Rub Cup running on that Holy Paladin, but we have a Feral and a Priest coming out from I Like This status. A composition swap up, but is this the right answer to beat LSD? It's a lot of burst.
It is a lot of burst. One of the things I liked about the Shadow Priest over the Mage is I actually think the Shadow Priest may be even a little bit better in dampening, if that makes any sense. Just because I think it becomes harder for Cubsy to heal through the single target pressure, and it's a little bit easier for Merkmines to get out those fears when they need them. Although Businessman does have the Tremor Totem available for those fears, if they can get them caught in like a Disarm or a Hodge or a Stun or whatever, and get the fears on the Cubsy, especially when they're like pulled back and turtling behind the pillar. I think I'd be able to get something going, but I don't know. I think LSD is a nightmare for a Paladin.
Yes, it is. Here we go. Gates have opened. Beanslayer in that stealth, looking to get a good opener on these guys. Merkmines as well. Man, my thing didn't change his name. I'm pissed. Okay. Alright. It's alright. But here we go. Looks like Merkmine's getting dotted up here a little bit. It's alright, man. There's just like a kind of a standoff here, but here we go. Beanslayer's going to go ahead and open up onto Businessman X. Cubsy caught into that Horrify, into the Fear out of that. It's going to go into a Hodge as well out of that, and it looks like they're swapping the damage actually over onto Cubsy. Cubsy preemptively going into that Bear form. Incarnation coming out from Beanslayer X. Silence out of the Hodge onto Cubsy. He is in that Bark Skin. Beanslayer getting peeled quite a bit, but is this going to be it for Cubsy? Nature's Swiftness, Ironbar coming out for him as well on the Heart of the Wild as well. He's using Heart of the Wild, so you know that he was expecting a big push of damage there with that 6-minute cooldown. Now Businessman taking a bit of pressure, but Goreki wants to turn that pressure right back around with his Demon Soul.
I think they want to keep going on Cubsy. There's the full Hodge on him. He's going to have to use his Trinket, I think. I mean, he does have some Heart of the Wild up, deciding to actually sit that. Wealthy Man tossing out those healing surges onto him, keeping Cubsy safe, and Cubsy's actually able to save his Trinket, which is very, very critical for him surviving, especially if they're going to go on him. Looks like they are switching it over onto Businessman a little bit. He gets offensively cloned up by Beanslayer. Beanslayer trying to get those clones out onto Cubsy. Cubsy was line of sighting that, though, so not able to get that going. He is going to be able to easily top off Businessman for the time being. Rub Cub Venging Wrath is going to fade, but that's the full silence onto Cubsy. Looks like they're going back onto him. Merkmine's doing a tremendous amount of pressure onto him. The full Hodge onto Cubsy, the Fear onto Goreki. Cubsy could be in a little bit of trouble right now. He does have Barkskin as well as his Trinket available, but Businessman is throwing out so many heals on him. Beatslayer does a good job throwing out that offensive clone onto Cubsy, keeping him low for the time being, but I think he's going to be fine. Didn't really have to use any cooldowns there, but there's the full disarm, the Trinket Ironbar coming out, and Esses himself as well. Businessman, though, dropping dangerously low. I like his status is actually putting out so much pressure right now. This is crazy.
Yeah, the swaps onto Businessman when Cubsy has those buttons to use are crazy. Hodge now going out onto Cubsy. Businessman taking a whole bunch of pressure as well. Looks like Cubsy is the main kill target, but in the background, Rumcup in a lot of trouble. He just goes down.
He had Divine Shield, he had PvP Trinket, he had Execution Sentence. I'm not sure what happened. He had all his cooldowns. I think he just wasn't expecting the damage that came out from Businessman. And that was unfortunate, but I mean, I liked his status. Just had so much momentum that game. Maybe perhaps going a little bit too aggressive. Cloud9 punishing them for that. All
right, here we go. And down he goes. I'm not sure if he got interrupted or what, but game number 2 is going to go to Cloud9, and all of a sudden I like this status come all this way, all the way through the qualifiers, and it looks like they're meeting their match here against Cloud9.
He actually did get locked out. He got so locked by Goreki.
Whoo! Trinket
So that's what happened.
lockout.
Just the Moonlight Sonata strategy: get spell locked and taken down before you can use
Is
it.
that what it is? I didn't think you wanted to get rid of or announce to everyone what your secret strats were, man.
Yeah, the Moonlight Sonata. That was a Pook saying from way back in the day.
Oh, really?
If you could lock out a paladin when he had bubble and then swap to him and kill him before he could bubble, it's called the Moonlight Sonata.
Moonlight Sonata. That's like the craziest name I've ever heard. I just want to go on a date on a Moonlight Sonata.
It's actually a very famous song.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
If
man.
you heard it,
I'm
when we're done the tournament, go to YouTube, type in Moonlight Sonata, you'll be like, whoa.
We got a whole bunch of donations as well, and I would like to read through as we're waiting to get into the games. We had a $20 donation from Olivia Grace, and she says, for the first aid. Oh, Jamili actually getting a first aid off. Didn't save his life, though, but thank you so much, Olivia Grace. It's very generous of you. Thank you. Keladar gave us $5. He says, where's the disc priest at? We actually had quite a few disc priests earlier on in the tournament, but they didn't make it this far. And we also got a $3 donation from Yeezy. Let's see what he said. It's actually really long. I did some decals for the channel. I'd really appreciate if you could give me a quick shout out on the channel. Sure. Let me check those out after the stream, and I'll do just that. But thank you so much, Yeezy, for that $3 donation. It's really generous of you. Thank you, sir. We're going to be jumping into these games very, very shortly. We just got to get the composition lock-in as well as the map lock-in. Where do you think we're going here? I mean, this Feral Priest Paladin composition seemed like they were doing a whole lot more than their previous compositions. Are we going to be going to Tolvaron Arena, apparently? That answers my questions completely. I'll see you guys in a hot minute. Welcome to Tolvaron Arena. I like the status sticking with this Feral Priest Holy Paladin composition, and it was working so well for them last game.
It was working very well for them. I think they just got, maybe not even a little bit over-aggressive. I think Rupkov just got unexpectedly locked out and took way more damage than he thought, because he got locked out at 40% HP. He still had a Sable the Light proc, got locked out, and they were able to kill him despite having a Sable the Light proc without him able to get that bubble off. So a lot of unexpected damage coming in onto Rupkovs, but they had a lot of pressure, like what they were doing. The offensive clones onto Cubsy when they didn't have Hodge and Disarm available to him to sort of stop him and keep the pressure up on Businessman, and then every time they could, swapping onto Cubsy to try to get a kill onto him and get him further behind. But they just need to make sure that, that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I think that they'd be good to go. I don't know. They were getting so many buttons. I mean, every setup, they got so many buttons. But as I say that, the Fury goes out, bash on the Cubsy. Looks like they're going to set up onto him, but the Shadow Fury from Goreki is going to stop a whole bunch of momentum. But there's the Horrified Disarm going out on the Cubsy into the DR Hodge. He's in bear form, taking a whole bunch of pressure. Rubcubs, though, getting feared up non-stop over and over and over again. And Beatslayer going to have to use his wall because of that.
Yeah, Rubcubs does have that Avenging Wrath up right now, so his heals are going to be empowered, spamming out as many heals as possible. Cubsy, although getting opened up there, didn't really have to use anything. Didn't even use Barkskin, didn't use Trinket. Businessman did an excellent job keeping him up. He was in bear form as well, so mitigating a lot of that incoming damage. And I like his status. Hasn't really able to get as great of an opener as they had last game. Finally, the Disarm, though, going out on the Cubsy. No damage is going to be happening off of that. Beanslayer actually getting bopped out of that bash.
Whoa.
Ironbark going out on the Cubs. He wants to stop some of this incoming damage, but he gets cloned up on it right away. Businessman taking a little damage, but Rubcub, Merkmine, and Beanslayer all in trouble. The War Mastery coming out from Rubcubs at the moment, spamming out as many heals as possible. Businessman taking a little bit of damage, though. Looks like he's going to be completely fine. Still has a Shaman Rage available if he needs it. Now Beanslayer, Merkmine, and Rubcubs are on the back foot. Rubcubs going to be desperately waiting for the Avenging Wrath cooldown to be coming back up so he can heal through the spread pressure just a little bit better.
You know, something to note is that Beanslayer actually haven't used Incarnation Berserk yet. He's still waiting for his opportunity to really use those big offensive cooldowns. And here we go, the Horrify going out onto Cubsy. Barkskin, that's the Berserk Incarnation. I just said Shadow Fury coming out from Goreki is going to stop Beanslayer in his tracks, and just going to swap that damage right over onto Businessman X after getting the Barkskin from Cubsy. And Businessman X still taking a whole bunch of pressure, but without Cubsy in any CC, Businessman X should be A-okay. There's a Cyclone going out onto Beanslayer, defensive Cyclone, as wasting the rest of that Incarnation. Robecubs does have that wings up, so he can afford to keep his team offensive for here for a short period of time, but it's not going to be able to last forever, and they're going to swap that damage right over onto Cubsy. Cubsy sitting in that bear form without Barkskin available to him, or Nature Swiftness for just a few more seconds, but looks like he's going to be okay for now, and that Incarnation Berserk really didn't get a whole lot done.
No, it did not. Cubsy now caught into a disarm. Businessman taking a little bit of damage at the moment, down to around 50% HP, but he hasn't had to use his Shaman Rage the entire game. Stampeding Roar coming out from Cubsy. Wants Businessman to kite as much as possible. Cubsy actually getting hodged up. They're just using it for CC. They want to keep the damage out on the Businessman, but as I say that, he gets cloned up. The DR Bash on the Cubsy. He has to Trinket, dipping dangerously low, down to 10% HP. The Iron Bar coming out, still has that Heart of the Wild up. Does have Barskin available if he needs it, but Merkmine getting the pressure turned around onto him, down to 20% HP at the moment. Saber the Light already proccing onto him. The double Shadow Fury coming out from Goreki on the Beanslayer as well as Merkmine. Red Cubs still doesn't have that Avenging Wrath up for another 30 seconds. He has Trinket and Bubble if he needs it, but he just doesn't have the throughput. His heals just don't do anything. He has to bubble, despite not being CC'd, just so he can get some cast off. The damage coming out from Wealthy Man as well as Goreki just tremendous at the moment. Not even into dampening. Rubcub's actually getting locked out, and now Merkmine's in a lot of trouble, although he had Disperse. Once again, I like to status dying without being able to get off the defensive cooldowns because of the lockout from Goreki and the unexpected burst coming out from Wealthy Man.
Yep, and that's a 3-0 coming out from Cloud9 as they earn their way back into the finals to face Splice in a rematch, a best-of-5 rematch, going to the finals. And I like the status making their way all the way through the qualifier bracket into this entire tournament. Shout out goes to them. They played so well, and I can't wait to see them come and compete again. But here we go. We're going to be going into the finals very shortly, everybody. Cloud9 entering their way again. Here we go. That being said, I do have a giveaway to give away right now. So if you guys want to be eligible for